the wee hours of the night. So you flip on CNBC at 2 o'clock in the morning, or your local channel in Chicago at 4 o'clock in the morning. We were those half-hour infomercial guys, which then morphed more into a short-form part of DRTV. But that's really where I kind of got my hooks in the industry.
Welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs, growing 1% everyday podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs podcast, where we discuss how to grow 1% every day in both business and in sales. Joining me today is Don Raditz, the VP of PulseTV, an e-commerce company that started in 1996, focused on real people and real deals. Their warehouse is located in the suburbs of Chicago, and unlike their competitors, they shoot video of their products right in-house. Excited to talk to Don about the growth of PulseTV and one of the most competitive markets in the world. Thank you, Don, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
You know, it's exciting to kind of look at businesses like yours. You know, we talked a little bit offline about the curse word that you guys use in the back end there, which is Amazon, and the development of that company, and how you guys have gone toe to toe and creating your company while they're developing around the same timeline. And in a world where we have all evolved into this digital advertising and purchasing products online, it's hard to stand out in the noise. Can you tell me first, Don, you have an incredible background, which I want to hear about that first, your background within the sales and marketing of products like this, and then going into PulseTV and how it's developed over the last 20 plus years.
So my background pretty much has been on the advertising and marketing side the entirety of my career. The first half was more traditional. I was a TV guy, I was a print guy, I was a radio guy. The last half here is morphed more into digital and emerging platforms. Pulse TV itself actually has a really interesting model. We like to say we were essentially Groupon before Groupon. We've been around since '96, and we actually started a deal of the day, which is still one of our primary marketing methodologies that we use, and built it over the years. You know, it has had as many as 7 million daily subscribers, where we're quite literally pounding out a daily marketing offer to products that we fully own and fulfill. It could be anything from a gadget to a kitchen product to electronics to a health and beauty product. We quickly realized, again, years ago, that once we incorporated video into those, it kind of changed the game for us. Conversions, engagement, everything went way up. So that was our primary method. It was very solid. Over the past 10 years, we've kind of pivoted a little bit. Email is still our main driver. But we realized we have to be, we didn't want to be a one-trick pony. Email is a very fragile beast. Should something happen with the email deliverability, if 99 cents out of each dollar was generated from your email marketing efforts, you'd be in big, big trouble. So like most folks, we kind of just started to throw our tentacles out there, and we became more of an omnichannel marketer, whether it be shop engines, your Google Shops, your Bing Shops, your Amazons, display, native, and so forth.
Yeah, and really evolved from it. Can you allude a little bit on your background there? You told me before the call of some of the remarkable things that you've done in marketing before you were even with Pulse TV. Can you highlight that and then talk about how marketing has really evolved in your eyes over these years? Because I love how you talked about how Pulse TV evolved to be in video and using the times, which I totally agree with. But I mean, you've been selling since the very beginning, especially on the digital basis. Have you seen real leaps and changes in the evolution of, say, like how we sell using social compared to how we sold back in the day?
Well, I'm of a certain age that social didn't exist when I first started. Out of college, I took a job for a media marketing company and assumed it was a traditional agency, a Toyota, a Procter and Gamble. Was there for a bit and started to realize what exactly is going on here. We were a direct response consumer marketing company. So what does that mean? Years ago, before all the streaming platforms and people just had television, and yet you had those infomercials pop in, that's where I began. So I was in that space of the company I was with was the Kevin Harrington, folks like that. A lot of the HSN folks came from my company, and we were quite literally selling our products through TV predominantly on a direct consumer basis in the wee hours of the night. You flip on CNBC at 2 o'clock in the morning, or your local channel in Chicago at 4 o'clock in the morning. We were those half-hour infomercial guys, which then morphed more into a short-form part of DRTV. But that's really where I kind of got my hooks in the industry.
I love that. Yeah, because people say that that concept doesn't work anymore when it comes to social media, but I believe the same concept works. It's just the attention span is so much lower now than what it used to be, right? So, are you still using some of the same tricks you learned at that first job today? What
Yeah,
would be
so we
some of
don't
those
we
tricks?
don't necessarily use the old yell and sell approach of DRTV. We kind of do more show and tell. So by design, we have an in-house studio where we actually create, I believe over our company's lifetime, we've developed over 10,000 videos selling various products. We use, like I said, we use a very home style spun type of marketing methodology where we'll get a product and we'll say this is what it is. We'll tell the positives and the negatives, and we'll say, but here's the reason why you think you'll like it. So instead of kind of that snake oils approach, we kind of do more of a show and tell, where we actually have someone on camera going through the actual what the product does, how it's constructed. Maybe there's a slight imperfection on the box, which is why we got a deal at what at the rate that we have it at. And so we kind of use that folksy approach. We've actually brought in agencies over the years that have sworn to us if we use their digital services, they'll be able to increase our sales by 20, 30, 40, 50%. To this day, it's never beaten what we can kind of do in house. And we just feel like there's a certain, genuine quality that people kind of take away from those videos, and that builds credibility.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the transparency that you're communicating, right? Like, because we all know the infomercials. Every business owner here have thought about it. Like, well, I've seen a million of the infomercials. One of them sold me eventually. I've had one that grabbed my attention. Maybe I can use that for my business today. But I believe the world of transparency and the world of people understanding sales and sales psychology has evolved so much over the last, say, 20, 25 years that worst thing that you could do is have the same pitch and the same concept as the person that to a person that just got sold the same exact way by somebody else. Just heard the same exact pitch, the same concept. And now you're like, wait, hold on. How are you any different? How are you actually going to help me when the last person just felt like they were trying to sell me? Where you guys' new approach, I love that angle of being transparent, being open, just being honest with people, which is what we're all looking for in today's day and age. Let's talk a little bit about in your role in Pulse TV. What is your main focus in the day-to-day activities in Pulse TV today?
Really, if I had to boil it down, it's new customer acquisition and revenue growth. Again, kind of springboard, we were a very predominantly email heavy company. I was brought in roughly 12 years ago to create new customers, new eyeballs, revenue generation, minus that piece. Knowing that piece that I'm generating new clients from are kind of the coal that we throw into the steam engine of the train. New buyers are our lifeblood. We certainly keep our current buyers around and we like to keep them happy as long as possible, but there's always churn and burn. So for me, the most important thing is I've got to get folks that kind of understand our model, see what we have, and keep creating those people, which will give us long-term health of the company.
I love that. And you're coming into, I don't know when this video will drop, probably right around Black Friday, Cyber Monday of 2025, and it is going to be one of the biggest buying seasons I think ever. It's going to be the biggest buying season of 2025 for sure, but maybe a historic one for the last few years. How is Pulse TV and you, Don, preparing for that moment? Do you guys look at that time of the year different? Is that main influx of revenue, new customer acquisition? Talk to me a little bit through that process and that mindset that you have coming into this time of year.
Oh, absolutely. We start preparing for Christmas season and for holiday season in March. Making sure we have our inventory that's all on track to come in, so it's in our warehouse and on the websites for those important days. Create, our marketing evolves during that time of the year. We create holiday catalogs. Our social medias will post, holiday themed marketing message throughout the period. We obviously, like most folks, we have our own versions of our Black Fridays and Cyber Mondays, and our sales in fourth quarter probably account for, not quite, but almost nearly 50% of our total yearly sales volume. It's a big and it's an extremely important time for us.
Incredible. And yeah, I've seen the same process of just a lot of e-commerce brands seeing anywhere from a 30 to 80% of their total annual revenue coming from Q4. And you prepping for that time. And it's funny that you said it starts in March, 3 months after it ended, right? You're already preparing for the next one. But that's what a good entrepreneur and business owner is doing. When they're looking at, especially Don's been here for years and understanding the cyclical flow of the revenue throughout the year. There is times where consumers want to buy and there's times where consumers don't want to buy. It's just simple as that. And leaning into those times when they want to buy and pulling as much juice, as much revenue as possible during that time will definitely emphasize your business. And you trying to pull revenue and really spend during a time where people don't want to buy, it's the fastest way to burn your cash, and making sure that you have a balance of understanding that. Now, let's dive into a little bit about Pulse TV's differentiation. I'd love to understand the uniqueness. You brought some things up that I already believe is unique, which is you have video creation of all the products that you have so that people can feel the honesty, the trust, the value of the product before they ever purchase it, and that you have all these products in-house in one of your warehouse. But can you break down a little bit, while we're coming into this Black Friday Cyber Monday season, why someone should go to Pulse TV and buy from you guys and say go into some competitors?
Yeah, I mean, one of our big selling points is we've always been a U.S. based company. We have all pieces of the company, whether it be customer service or marketing, you name it. It's all U.S. based. So if somebody has an issue with a product, or if they want to track it, or they can pick up an 800 number and they're going to call a U.S. agent. So we pride ourselves on that. Actually, it's funny. I was notified earlier today that we've been, for the third time in the past 7 years, was actually named by Newsweek as America's one of their best top online shops of 2025. So we're very proud of that. But we I like to say my company itself is, we always use an analogy internally. We're like an iceberg. I think people kind of understand what we do from the onset, but really maybe only 10% is showing. We have a lot underneath it. We have not only Pulse TV, but we have several different e-commerce sites. Offerbug.com. We actually have a content side of our business, which we've been producing content and websites for nearly 20 years across different verticals. And we can actually sell our products on those websites and in those newsletters. So we may have a Handy Hints newsletter, or the Daily Recipe newsletter, and corresponding websites. And if we have a kitchen product, we'll sell it. We'll market it on the Daily Recipe website. So we're always looking for ways to know, what are the next steps? What's our evolution? How can it be smarter? Folks have a lot of choices out there. So we're always looking, we're always trying to be like in a game of chess. We're always trying to be one step ahead to say, okay, what's going to be the next punch in the gut? Because they come daily. And how can we kind of counterpunch that?
Don, that leads directly into my next question. My next one for you was, where does this all go, right? Obviously, we're preparing for Black Friday, Cyber Monday for 2025, but what's Pulse TV's goal for, say, the next 12 months, the next year? Are you guys looking to expand in different directions? Before we get into that, I want to make sure the entrepreneurs and business owners pulled that bit of information that you just left there, that golden nugget, Don, of really saying we've diversified our business, where we have a product, we have a website, we've done great, but we've learned all the specialties over the last 20 plus years that we do as a business. And we've actually leaned into that instead of suing it away, leaned into developing a website that's easily used for e-commerce and helping people do that, making sure that we separate our wide variety of products within consumer avatars. This is super important. Business owners and entrepreneurs understand, if you run a business where you help multiple different types of customers, you will always find higher efficiencies by leaning into the groups instead of speaking broadly for everyone to listen. And that's what they've done here at Pulse TV. They've actually honed in on the different categories of products, found a way to communicate to those customers specifically, and then be able to slide their products in to be able to keep the commerce. Super smart, Don. I love that. But yeah, give me an outline. Next 12 months, where's Pulse TV going?
I'll tie right in what you said there. The reality is that even Amazon, you ask 100 people what Amazon is, and they're probably all going to have the same exact answer. And in my opinion, Amazon's actually a media company. They own data. They own footprints. They know what people are looking for and kind of what they're doing out there. So we've kind of followed that similar path, that even though we're a marketer, a direct consumer e-commerce marketer, we're a media owner. And we're continually trying to grow our media, because if we can grow our media, we can, basically monetize it one of two ways: with our own inventory or through third-party ad partnerships. We can have folks that want to come to us. Maybe they have a new product that they're looking to market, and we can sell them inventory in our space. But again, we hang our hat on that. The more media we can create, that we know that people can kind of go and find, whether it be content, commerce, blogs, even podcasts. That's really where we're looking for our next step of growth is to continue to build those so that we have a expanded, let's call it, cast a wider net where we can really kind of put our marketing messages out there and obviously grow the organization.
Yeah, and I honestly, from someone that's in a marketing position right now, all I constantly do is look at marketing for a business like yours, where the video itself creates this level of transparency that you don't get from Amazon pages, right? It's like an Amazon PDP page is their number one focus on every reseller, because if you've ever sold on Amazon, you've probably gone through this tedious process of developing a product page that really fulfills everything they're looking for, but it all feels so cheap and cheesy and graphic. Awesome to see you guys leaning into absorbing the concept of being a media company first, because that media is going to create transparency to sell the products. I love that. Don, I'd love to hear a little bit from your expertise, especially doing this business for so many years and really being able to find success here. What's one piece of advice that you would give to the entrepreneurs and business owners listening to this right now if they're looking to get into, say, the e-commerce space specifically? Do you have any advice, any guidance, or maybe a recommendation or two for them to get them on the straight and narrow of what it really takes to find success with businesses like this?
Yeah, well, I'll actually steal an analogy from a mentor of mine, and it ties in nicely because I'm a baseball coach, and I have two boys that played baseball along the way. One's right now in college playing baseball, and he always said, "Don't be afraid to strike out." We know that for heck, I like to say out of every 10 swings, I might get a hit. The reality is probably out of 20 swings, I might get a hit. So perseverance. If you're passionate, if it's something you want to do, whichever side of the e-commerce venture on, embrace failure. Learn that it's gonna be there continually, but it's gonna have a high payoff once you kind of hit that double, triple, or homer. So perseverance and really just kind of hanging in there are kind of my, really cutting my DNA.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I think everybody in sports that are also entrepreneurs find their success because of their grit and their determination that have gone through it. I know if I didn't have my background of sports, I don't know if I'd be able to go through and surpass some of the difficulties that I've met running a business, which I have bled and I have broken myself during sports. I've never done that during business, and business has definitely seemed a lot harder than the broken legs and the bleeding hands, right? So making sure you have the perseverance and the dedication to keep pushing through. Great advice, Donna. I love that. Let's close this all out with one piece of information from you of what you do on a daily basis to find improvement. So there's a terminology called Kaizen. It's a Japanese business philosophy that means 1% improvement every day or taking small steps towards a larger goal. And I believe that anybody in an entrepreneurial position, a position like yours where you're trying to grow a business, have to find that 1% to improve themselves and the business around them every day. What do you do as say, a habit or something you do on a consistent basis to find that constant improvement, Doc?
Yeah, so I can be, I have a part of me that can be a creature of habit. So each day I have my set flows. I think you can get off the rails quick if you kind of let the little things slide, because then those little things start to add up. So I have just a system of checks and balances. I don't ever, and I always challenge my folks internally as well is don't be a saw in the groove. Don't stay down the path just because that's the way you've always done it. Build a better mousetrap. I hate to throw too many cliches in at once, but really what that is evolve, change. You know, learn that what I do is constantly changing against me. I think I read somewhere the other day that Google changes their algorithms over 500 times a year. Once you think you got that system down, then all of a sudden you wake up one day and everything that was working on a Monday necessarily isn't working on Wednesday. Uh, so for me, it's just kind of being open-minded, being humble, knowing that you don't know everything, being willing to learn, to accept advice, and take that mentality and that approach and kind of really shadow that each and every day. That's what I've found that works for me the best, is to kind of treat each day, as if its own new entity, and kind of embrace failure, like I said earlier, and be willing to adapt.
I love that. Build a better mousetrap. I love that. They constantly work to find the improvement and don't get stuck in that rut of, habits are good if the habits are always pushing you in the right direction, but sometimes our habits just create doing us doing the same thing, getting to the same results over and over. And you have to break that sometimes. Don, awesome. Thank you so much for the background, the advice, a breakdown on a business that I didn't even know about that is incredible to have in my back pocket as I'm shopping for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, which is PulseTV. And I'll definitely be looking more into this as we get into the holiday season. For the listeners out there, how can they find more information? How can they get connected with you? How can they start finding some of these amazing deals that you guys have online?
Yeah, so obviously our flagship company is PulseTV.com. Pulse, kind of like your heartbeat, TV as in television. Offerbug.com is another one of our websites. Myself, if somebody had a question, if they wanted to do an ad partnership, Raditz, Raddatz at PulseTV.com is the easiest way to reach me. Again, I'm of a certain ear set, of an age that, if you email me, you're going to get an email back usually within a couple hours. So, and then obviously we have all of our social channels, our Instagrams, our TikToks, Facebook, Meta, again, all under the Pulse TV umbrella.
Love that. And all that information is going to be found below in the description. If you guys have finished this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us on the Kaizen podcast. And Don, thank you so much for your time, really opening up your concepts of growing the business, as well as getting ready for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and how you found the continuous progression of staying humble, pushing past the difficulties that you've seen throughout the years, and constantly moving yourself 1% better every single day. Thank you, Don. I appreciate your time.